The firestorm rolled across the shattered outpost like a living beast. Heat shimmered, flames twisted in jagged spirals, and the sky rained sparks from broken machinery that burned brighter than any star. In the middle of that chaos, Lyra crouched low with her cub Kale pressed against her chest. Her violet fur was singed at the tips, her long purple hair clinging to her face, and her tail, normally a banner of pride, wrapped tight around the child in a desperate shield. Her instincts screamed this was the end. The enemy bombardment had flattened everything. Buildings groaned as metal supports melted. The ground shook with each fresh detonation. Her warrior's pride told her to die on her feet, but her mother's heart told her only one thing mattered: keep Kale safe, even if it meant bracing for death. She whispered into the little one's ear, voice trembling but steady enough to sound like courage. "It's all right. Close your eyes." Kale whimpered, tiny hands clinging to her tunic. She braced herself, heart hammering, waiting for the inevitable. And then, human shouting. Rough, hoarse, cutting through the roar of fire. Before she could make sense of it, strong arms seized her, dragging her from the heat. She twisted in shock, ears flattening against the sweat-drenched chest of a man. His shirt was torn, skin streaked with smoke and ash, eyes narrowed with focus. He moved like a soldier who had survived one battlefield too many, efficient, unhesitating, and annoyingly alive. Kale peeked over her shoulder, ears twitching, and chirped a word that froze Lyra's blood. "Papa." Her whole body went rigid. "He is not," she tried to protest, but her voice cracked under the smoke. The human, still coughing, glanced down at her and then at the cub. And the smirk that spread across his face was the last thing she needed in that moment. "Well, that was fast," he said, half amused, half breathless. "Save you once and suddenly I'm a father." Kale nodded with absolute certainty. "Yes. You carried us." Lyra bared her fangs, furious at both the human and her own treacherous tail that had started twitching behind her. "You are mistaken, little one. He is no such thing. He grabbed me without consent." The man raised his brows, incredulous. "Without consent? Lady, you were on fire." Kale giggled, tail wagging. "He held Mama tight until she stopped screaming." "That is not what happened." Lyra snapped, slapping her tail against the dirt for emphasis. But the cub only laughed harder, and the human looked entirely too entertained. "Careful," the man teased. "Fall asleep in a guy's arms once and suddenly you're married." "Married?" Lyra sputtered, fur bristling. "Do not be absurd. Not my idea. Kid's already calling me Papa. I don't make the rules." Kale squealed, hugging his arm. "I like Papa." The human blinked like he hadn't expected that much commitment. Lyra buried her face in her hands, groaning. Spirits help her, she would never survive this. He crouched, setting her gently against the remains of a wall, and his hands began checking her shoulders, chest, ribs. His touch was brisk, practiced. She flinched anyway. "You dare grope me in front of my cub," she hissed. "Grope?" His face twisted in disbelief. "Lady, I'm checking for broken bones." "You took a blast head-on." "Then ask first," she snapped. "Consent is sacred." Kale piped up, "Mama, don't be mean. He touched you gentle." The human coughed into his fist to hide a laugh. "Out of the mouths of babes." Lyra's claws scraped against rubble. "Silence, both of you. I am a warrior. I need no man's hands on me." "Sure," he said, already pulling a medkit from his belt. "But if I don't clean that cut, you'll need a grave instead." Before she could argue further, antiseptic bit into her side and she hissed in pain, teeth snapping shut on words she couldn't speak. He muttered something about foxes being harder to patch than canvas, needle already working. "Papa is sewing, Mama," Kale whispered reverently. The human froze mid-stitch, glancing at Lyra in alarm. She glared daggers. Do not say it like that. But it's true, the cub insisted. Lyra groaned into her hands. She would never live this down. The man tied off the bandage, leaned back with a grin. There. Good as new. Well, newish. Try not to throw yourself into another fireball. I did not throw myself, Lyra retorted sharply. I shielded my cub. A mother's duty. For a moment his humor slipped, replaced by something steadier, almost gentle. Yeah, he said softly. I saw that. The silence between them stretched, ruined only by Kale's yawn. The cub beamed. Papa saved Mama. Mama saved me. We're a family now. The human laughed, ruffling Kale's ears. Kids got the logic nailed. Lyra hissed, arms crossed tight, though her tail betrayed her with a small wag against the dirt. You are not Papa. I know, he interrupted, still smirking. But until someone else steps up, I guess the job's mine. Her ears twitched. This is not employment. This is my life. Exactly. Which means if I'm stuck with it, you're stuck with me. Kale clapped happily. Lyra opened her mouth to argue, only to find no words waiting. Spirits curse her, she was actually blushing. The man rummaged in his pack and tossed her a foil-wrapped bar. Eat. You'll need the strength. She sniffed it with suspicion. What is this? Compressed dirt. Close. It's a protein bar. He bit into his own, grimacing. Keeps you alive, though it tastes worse than it looks. Kale was already munching his, crumbs on his muzzle. Papa food is tasty. Stop calling him that. Lyra snapped, though she finally tore open the foil and forced herself to chew. Her nose wrinkled instantly. By the moons. This is not food. This is punishment. The man smirked. Funny. That's what I call your attitude. She snapped her teeth at him, furious, and mortified when she realized her tail was brushing against the dirt in little arcs. She yanked it close, hissing. It is not wagging. Sure, he said, voice amused. Must be the wind. Mama's tail likes Papa, Kale giggled with a mouthful of crumbs. Lyra groaned, covering her face again. Spirits preserve her. This was torment. The human leaned back, resting his rifle across his lap. Relax, Foxy. Instincts don't lie. Do not call me Foxy. Fine. Princess Fangs. That is worse. Kale clapped happily. I like Princess Fangs. Papa is funny. She let out a strangled groan. The flames still burned in the distance, the war raged on, but in that broken corner of battlefield, survival had twisted into something absurd. Lyra had braced for death, but instead found herself in a man's arms, her cub calling him Papa, and her tail betraying feelings she swore she didn't have. And the worst part? Darius, the human, knew it. His smirk told her he noticed everything, and wasn't planning to let her forget it any time soon. Lyra woke to the sound of voices, low, sharp, familiar. Her ears twitched, every muscle tensing as shadows moved around the broken wall where she had collapsed. The fire had dimmed to distant embers, smoke curling across the ruins, and yet the battlefield was no longer silent. Figures emerged through the haze, tall silhouettes with glowing eyes and fur glinting silver under the dawn light. Her clan. Her heart dropped like a stone. She tried to stand, but pain lanced through her ribs and forced her down again. Darius was beside her instantly, muttering, "Easy, Princess Fangs. Don't rip your stitches." His hand pressed lightly against her side, steady but firm. To her clan, though, that touch meant something entirely different. Their eyes widened, tails flicked, and murmurs rose in a wave. Kale bounded forward proudly, ears perked high. Mama found Papa. Lyra nearly fainted. No, she barked, but her voice cracked under the weight of every stare. The elders whispered to one another, tails swishing. An old figure stepped closer, leaning heavily on a staff carved with ancient symbols. Elder Vaynar. His muzzle was streaked with white, his eyes sharp as blades. He looked from Lyra, to Kale, to the human crouched far too close to her, and his expression settled into something grim yet satisfied. "It is done, then," he intoned. "She has chosen." Darius blinked, baffled. "Chosen? Wait, hang on. What did I miss?" Lyra snapped her teeth in frustration. "You have not been chosen. This is a calamity." But the elder nodded with infuriating solemnity. "Those are the words of one thoroughly claimed." "Claimed?" Darius sputtered. Whoa, nobody claimed anybody. I just carried her out of a fire." The clan gasped. Whispers flew through the crowd. He carried her in his arms. The sacred rite fulfilled. No sacred rite. Lyra shouted, tail slamming against the ground hard enough to kick up sparks. He was intrusive, nothing more. Kale, glowing with excitement, began listing his evidence like a tiny herald of doom. Papa carried Mama. Touched Mama. Fed Mama. Sewed Mama. Gave Mama water. The crowd erupted in approving howls. Some warriors stomped their paws. A few vixens giggled behind their hands. Darius stared skyward as if begging some distant god for rescue. "Kid, you are not helping." Elder Vaynar raised his staff, silencing the crowd. "Then he must be tested, to prove his worth as mate and father." "Oh, great," Darius muttered. "I knew this was coming." "What is it, a questionnaire?" "Background check." "Do I need references?" Lyra buried her face in her hands. "Spirits strike her dead." This humiliation was unending. The elder gestured, and warriors dragged something snarling into the clearing, a beast plated in natural armor, jaws like plasma cutters, claws gouging trenches in the earth. "He must subdue it," Vaynar declared. Darius gaped. "You want me to wrestle that?" "With what, bad language?" Lyra hissed coldly. "Perhaps you will finally be eaten, and I will be free." Kale's eyes shone with unshakable faith. "Papa can do it." Darius sighed, rummaging through his pack. "This is going to be so stupid." He pulled out duct tape and an energy bar. The crowd frowned, uncertain, as he tossed the bar at the beast. It paused, sniffed, and gobbled it in one gulp. While it chewed, Darius leapt forward, taped its jaws shut, and clambered onto its back like a rodeo rider. The beast thrashed, snarled, slammed against the dirt. But with a grunt and a few choice curses, Darius tied the tape into a neat bow and hopped off, panting. The beast sulked, jaws sealed tight. The crowd gasped. Elder Vaynar raised his staff. "He has triumphed." "That's not triumph," Darius panted. "That's creative desperation." Kale ran to hug his leg. "Papa is strong." "Strong?" Lyra sputtered. "He bribed it with food and tied it like a parcel." The elder stroked his beard. "Clever endurance shall be tested next." And so it began. Hours of grueling trials followed. Warriors collapsed one by one from exhaustion, but Darius kept moving, jogging in place, muttering insults at his own legs, fueled by nothing but stubbornness and questionable caffeine pills. By dawn, only he remained standing, wild-eyed and jittery. "His stamina is proven," Vaynar declared. "This isn't stamina," Darius croaked. "This is addiction to terrible coffee." Kale clapped wildly. "Papa never gives up." Lyra groaned. "He is insane, not tireless." At last the elder raised his staff again. The final trial. He must provide pleasure of the mate. Darius's eyes nearly popped out of his skull. "Excuse me." Provide what now? The elder clarified, utterly serious. He must care for her, nourish her, bring comfort and skill. Darius sagged in relief. Okay, thank God. Thought you meant something else. Lyra's ears burned crimson. Something else? Like what? Nothing, he blurted, already digging through his pack. Moments later, he set up a battered pot, poured in water, and ripped open a packet of instant noodles. The steam rose, carrying a salty, artificial scent. He ladled it into a dented tin bowl and handed it to Lyra. Kale tugged her sleeve. Mama, taste it. Suspicious, she sipped. Her eyes widened despite herself. It is, salty. Strange. Comforting. The clan howled in wild approval. He has provided pleasure. Darius nearly choked on his own spit. Stop saying it like that. Lyra slammed the bowl down, fur blazing red. This is humiliation. But Mama, Kale said softly, you smiled when you drank. She froze. The cub was right. Against her will, against her pride, she had smiled, just a little. The elder thumped his staff. It is settled. The trials are complete. The human is worthy. The crowd erupted in cheers. Tails whipped back and forth. Kale clung to Darius's leg, chanting, Papa, Papa, Papa. Lyra trembled with fury. I will not, cannot, accept this farce. Darius raised both hands quickly. Look, I'm flattered, maybe, but I didn't sign up for a wedding. I was just trying to keep you alive. But Elder Vaynar only nodded gravely. And by doing so, you have bound yourself. The bond is sealed. Darius muttered darkly, I should have let the plasma blast finish me. Kale looked up at him, bright as sunrise. But then I wouldn't have a papa. And that was the one strike Darius could not parry. His shoulders slumped, sarcasm collapsing under the weight of a child's faith. Lyra's heart twisted painfully. She wanted to scream, to deny it all, but Kale's joy was too radiant, and Darius's weary grin, half defiant, half resigned, cut deeper than she cared to admit. She clutched her chest, whispering so only the flames could hear, this cannot be happening. But it was. And her clan believed it more fiercely with every breath. The campfire burned low, embers glowing like watchful eyes as the clan settled around them. Whispers rippled across the clearing, tails flicking, ears twitching. No one truly slept. Lyra sat rigid, Kale curled tightly against her, though the cub wriggled free moments later and clambered right back into Darius's lap as if it were the most natural place in the world. Papa's warm, Kale mumbled, already drifting off. Do not call him, Lyra began, but stopped short when she saw her son's tiny body pressed trustingly against the man's chest. Her protest withered into a sigh that felt like surrender. Darius stroked Kale's ears gently, eyes soft despite the weariness in his shoulders. Kid, you've got no idea the paperwork you're writing me into. He caught Lyra's glare across the fire and smirked crookedly. Don't worry. Your secret's safe. I won't tell anyone you look at me like that. Like what? She demanded, fur bristling. Like you're trying real hard not to admit I'm the best bed you've had in years. Her ears shot straight up. You. That is not. She faltered, mortified, because her own cub was nestled against him, making her outrage feel hollow. Darius chuckled low, too calm, too infuriating. Relax. Double meaning intended. Bed as in bedrock, foundation, safe place. Not the other thing. You humans twist words like knives, she snapped. And you foxes hear knives when I mean spoons. Before she could retort, Elder Vaynar's cough cracked the night like a whip. He approached with his staff, his voice carrying the weight of law. It is custom, he said, that once trials are passed, the union is sealed before dawn. Darius froze. Union? As in marriage? Already? I don't even know her middle name. There will be no ceiling, Lyra growled, rising to her feet despite her injuries. The elder raised a brow. Yet he holds your cub. He risked his life. He fed you. He endured trials. For the last time, Darius interjected, that was instant ramen, not divine nectar. The elder ignored him. You deny what is written in tradition. Lyra clenched her claws, voice shaking. I deny nothing. I resist misunderstanding. Darius tilted his head at her, studying with infuriating calm. You don't sound like you want to resist all of it. Her eyes flashed, muzzle trembling. Stop speaking. Or what? He leaned closer, grin wicked. You'll fall asleep in my arms again. Her breath hitched. Around them, the clan giggled and howled, interpreting every word as foreplay. Lyra's fur burned so hot she swore she might ignite. Mama, Kale murmured drowsily, don't yell at Papa. Then he snuggled tighter against Darius's chest, perfectly content. The human lowered his voice, gentle now. You know I didn't plan this, right? I just couldn't leave you burning in the ruins. Lyra's gaze softened despite herself. And yet you stayed when you could have left. He shrugged. Guess I'm terrible at walking away. Elder Vaynar slammed his staff against the dirt. Enough hesitation. The bond is real. Let it be spoken. Let it be sealed. Darius rose slowly, Kale still in his arms, and faced the clan. His voice was steady, half defiant, half resigned. Look, I don't know your rules. But I know this, I didn't carry her out of fire just to hand her back into it. She's safe with me. Always will be. The clan roared approval. Lyra's chest tightened painfully. Safe with me. The phrase echoed like a spell, tangled in memory, flames, fear, and the unbearable warmth of his chest when she thought she was dying. The elder gestured for them to kneel together. Speak vows. Darius snorted. You've got the wrong guy. I'm not the vow type. At least we agree on something, Lyra muttered. But then he looked at her, really looked, and something unspoken passed between them. A challenge. A dare. A reckless spark. He lowered himself to one knee anyway, shifting Kale easily to his hip. Fine. Let's do it my way. The clan leaned forward, ears sharp with anticipation. Lyra's heart hammered so hard she thought her ribs might split. Vow number 1, Darius said, raising a finger. I vow not to let her starve, even if all I've got is instant noodles. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Vow number 2, he continued. I vow to patch her up every time she tries to be a martyr. Murmurs of approval spread. Vow number 3, he smirked at her. I vow to keep pissing her off just enough that she never gets bored. The clearing erupted in howls and laughter. Kale clapped, tail wagging wildly. Lyra's breath came shallow. Against every wall she had built, against every ounce of pride, she lowered herself to her knees beside him. Her voice trembled, but she spoke. Then I vow to bite him if he grows too smug, claw him if he abandons us, and endure his insufferable cooking, if it means my cub laughs again. The crowd went wild. The elder slammed his staff down. It is sealed. Darius groaned, head in his hands. Fantastic. Married by noodles and sarcasm. My parents would be so proud. Kale pressed both tiny paws against their joined hands, beaming. Mama, Papa, together. Lyra closed her eyes, heat swelling in her chest until she could hardly breathe. When she opened them, Darius was staring at her, not mocking, not smirking, but steady. You are trouble, she whispered. He grinned faintly. Yeah. But I'm your trouble now. And with that, the night broke into laughter, howls, and wild celebration. The clan feasted, tails swayed in unison, and the cub slept peacefully between them. Lyra, once resigned to die in fire, now found herself bound in the strangest fate of all, tangled in the arms of a man who refused to let her go. Morning came with a pale sky and the acrid scent of burned metal. The battlefield was quiet for now, but Lyra knew the silence wouldn't last. War never paused for long. The clan bustled around the camp, already treating Darius as though he were one of their own. Warriors clapped him on the back, laughing at his half-grimaced, half-grateful reactions. Vixens whispered behind their paws, giggling each time his eyes met theirs. Kale skipped between them all, bright as sunlight, introducing his papa to anyone who would listen. Lyra sat apart, tail coiled tight around her, watching it all with disbelief. Somehow, in less than a night, everything had shifted. Her cub had a father, at least in the clan's eyes, and she had, what? A partner? A claim? A tether she never asked for. Darius dropped beside her with a grunt, setting down 2 steaming cups of something that smelled faintly edible. Breakfast, he announced. She sniffed suspiciously. This smells like boiled socks. Close, he admitted cheerfully. Instant coffee. Drink it before it dissolves the cup. She glared, then sipped, and winced as the bitter liquid seared her tongue. You call this nourishment? He smirked. Nope. I call it survival. For a moment, their eyes met. He looked more tired than smug now, but there was still warmth there, a stubborn refusal to let the world grind him down. And despite herself, despite the humiliation of the trials, Lyra felt something fragile stir. Why? She asked quietly. Why didn't you just walk away? His grin softened into something almost vulnerable. Because I don't leave people behind. Not on the battlefield. Not anywhere. Before she could answer, Elder Vaynar appeared, staff tapping against stone. His voice carried the final weight of judgment. The bond has been sealed. Now it must be lived. Together, you will fight, endure, and keep the cub safe. Lyra opened her mouth to protest, but Kale barreled into her lap, eyes wide with joy. Mama. Papa. We're a family now. Her heart wavered. She glanced at Darius, who only shrugged, as if to say I didn't plan this either. Yet his hand brushed hers where it rested on Kale's back, and she didn't pull away. The war still loomed. The firestorm still smoldered. But in that fragile corner of a ruined world, something had taken root, messy, absurd, unwanted, and impossible to ignore. Lyra had braced for death. Instead, she found herself staring at life, tangled with a stubborn human and a cub's unshakable faith. Spirits help her, she wasn't sure she hated it anymore. And that's where we leave Lyra, Kale, and Darius, bound together by fire, sarcasm, noodles, and a clan's relentless traditions. What began as survival in the ruins turned into something stranger, funnier, and maybe even stronger than either of them expected. Darius, the reluctant human, stepped into a role he never asked for. Lyra, the fierce fox warrior, fought harder against her own instincts than against any battlefield. And Kale, the little cub with wide eyes and too much honesty, became the glue that tied them all together. Was this destiny? A trick of circumstance? Or just one stubborn man refusing to walk away? Maybe all of the above. But one thing's for sure, a family, however unlikely, was forged in the ashes. Now, before you go, if you enjoyed this story and want more sci-fi tales filled with laughter, heart, and a bit of chaos, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It's free, and it makes sure you won't miss the next adventure. Also, give this video a like if Lyra's tail wagging made you smile, and share it with a friend who loves sci-fi with a side of humor. Every click helps this channel grow, and it means I can bring you even more stories just like this. Thanks for hanging out with me in today's wild ride through firestorms, trials, and noodle vows. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and remember, sometimes the family you never asked for ends up being the one you need the most.